What if someone told you that in one of the most beautiful corners of the planet, brides are still bought with whale teeth? That there's a currency made of marine giants' bones that's worth more than gold and diamonds? And that a single tooth can decide the fate of an entire family forever? Welcome to Fiji, islands where ancient traditions are so shocking to the modern person that anthropologists still argue, is it barbarism or a brilliant survival system? Where a woman can still be bought with an item that Europeans have considered a simple decoration for centuries, and where refusing to accept this gift can cost you not only the honor of your family, but much more. Today, we'll reveal the secret of the tabua, whale teeth that have ruled the islands in the Pacific Ocean for 1,000 years. You'll find out why the obsession with these tusks led Europeans to mass whale killings, what terrible price families paid who couldn't afford a proper wedding, and why modern Fijian authorities still strictly control every tooth that leaves the country. But you'll hear the most shocking thing at the end, because what happens to these teeth after the wedding ceremony makes you reconsider everything we know about love, marriage, and human relationships. The Pacific Ocean, an archipelago of 330 islands. Here, among the endless blue and snow-white beaches, one of the most mysterious monetary systems in human history was born. A monetary system based not on gold, not on silver, and not even on precious stones. In Fiji, teeth serve as money. Sperm whale teeth. Tabua, as these polished tusks of marine giants are called, are much more than just an exotic means of exchange. These are sacred objects that can change a person's destiny with their mere appearance. When European explorers first encountered this phenomenon in the 18th century, they couldn't believe what they were seeing. Entire families spent years saving up to acquire a single whale tooth. Men risked their lives in dangerous voyages, hoping to find the carcass of a sperm whale washed ashore. And women passed down tabua as the most valuable family treasure. But why exactly did sperm whale teeth become the foundation of Fijian culture? The origin of the sacred currency? The history of tabua goes back centuries, when the Fiji Islands were isolated from the outside world by thousands of miles of ocean. In those days, sperm whales were rarely washed up on the shores of the islands, and the locals considered this a gift from the gods. From the lower jaw of one adult sperm whale, you can get from 20 to 30 teeth, each 15 to 25 centimeters long. However, not every tooth was suitable for making tabua. Fijian craftsmen selected only the largest, straightest, and most undamaged specimens. The process of turning a whale tooth into a tabua required months of painstaking work. First, the tooth was thoroughly cleaned of soft tissues and washed in seawater. Then it was polished to a mirror shine using coral sand and special leaves. The final touch was drilling holes on both sides of the tooth and threading a braided cord of coconut fiber through them. The finished tabua was treated with coconut oil and smoked over a special fire, which gave it a characteristic golden brown hue. The whole process took up to 6 months, and each tabua became a unique work of art. The rarity of whale teeth made them incredibly valuable. Before the arrival of Europeans, Fijians could only obtain tabua in 3 ways: find a whale washed ashore, receive it as a gift from the neighboring Tongan Islands, or exchange it with rare traders. This rarity automatically gave tabua a sacred status. Fijians believed that each whale tooth contained a piece of the spirit of the marine giant and therefore possessed supernatural power. Owning a tabua meant not just wealth, it was a connection to the world of spirits and ancestors. Tabua as the basis of marital relations. In Fijian society, tabua plays a central role in the marriage process, representing much more than a simple payment for the bride. This tradition is based on deep cultural principles of respect, honor, and social status. The process of traditional matchmaking in Fiji is called dulumi and is a complex system of negotiations between families. When a young man decides to marry, his family doesn't just announce their desire. They must prove the seriousness of their intentions and the ability to provide for the future wife. A representative of the groom's family, usually an uncle or other respected relative, comes to the bride's house with a tabua in hand. This moment is the culmination of a long preparation. The groom's family could have been saving up for years to acquire a worthy whale tooth. The presentation of the tabua takes place according to a strict ritual. The representative of the groom's family sits in front of the elders of the bride's family, holding the tabua in both hands. He delivers a formal speech in Fijian in which he explains the purpose of the visit and asks for the girl's hand for his relative. The importance of this moment cannot be overstated. The quality of the tabua, the eloquence of the representative, and the reputation of the groom's family determine not only the consent to the marriage, but also the future relations between the two families. The bride's family carefully considers the proposed tabua, assessing its size, quality of workmanship, and overall condition. Acceptance of the tabua means consent to the marriage and the beginning of a new phase of negotiations. Families discuss the details of the wedding ceremony, the exchange of other gifts, and future obligations to each other. Rejection of the tabua, on the other hand, is a polite but categorical rejection of the proposal. The tevu-tevu ceremony and the exchange of gifts. After accepting the tabua, the families proceed to the tevu-tevu ceremony, a complex ritual of exchanging traditional gifts that strengthens the ties between the clans and prepares the ground for the wedding celebration. The bride's family prepares woven mats called ibe, made from pandanus leaves. These mats are crafted by the women of the family over months, sometimes even years. Each mat is a work of art, featuring unique patterns that tell the family story. Masi, a traditional cloth made from the bark of the mulberry tree, is also being prepared. Making masi requires special skill. The bark is soaked, beaten with wooden mallets, and decorated with geometric patterns. White masi symbolizes purity and new beginnings, while black patterns signify protection and strength. The groom's family, in turn, prepares additional gifts: traditional clothing, coconut oil scented with tropical flowers, and kava root for ritual drinking. Each gift has symbolic meaning and demonstrates respect for the new relatives. During the tevu-tevu ceremony, the women of both families perform traditional songs called veikurumi, celebrating the upcoming union. The men participate in the ritual drinking of kava, which symbolically unites the two families into one. The exchange of gifts takes place in a specific order established by tradition. Each item is solemnly presented, and its significance is explained to those present. This process can last for several hours as each family strives to demonstrate its wealth and cultural knowledge. The spiritual and social significance of the tabua. The tabua represents much more than a material object. It embodies the spiritual beliefs of the Fijian people. Each whale's tooth is regarded as a sacred object, endowed with supernatural power and the ability to influence people's destinies. Fijians believe that the tabua contains mana, the spiritual energy of the sperm whale. This energy does not disappear after the animal's death, but remains in its teeth, making each tabua a source of strength and protection. Owning a tabua signifies not only material wealth, but also a spiritual connection to the sea deities. In the context of marriage, the tabua functions as a spiritual intermediary between two families. Its presentation creates an invisible bond between the families, which lasts for generations. The family that accepts the tabua assumes moral and spiritual obligations to the giver. The social role of the tabua is no less important. In traditional Fijian society, owning high-quality whale teeth indicated a family's high status. Families who could afford to give tabua automatically gained respect and influence in the community. Tabua also served as an instrument of diplomacy between different tribes and islands. The exchange of whale teeth could prevent wars, conclude peace agreements, or establish trade relations. Chiefs used tabua to strengthen their power and create alliances. Interestingly, tabua were never sold in the traditional sense of the word. They were only given as gifts, creating a system of mutual obligations and debts of honor. The recipient of a tabua became spiritually connected to the giver and was expected to reciprocate at the first opportunity. The sevu-sevu ritual and kava ceremony. A central element of the Fijian wedding tradition is the sevu-sevu ceremony, a ritual drinking of kava that officially unites two families into one. This ancient tradition is a complex combination of spiritual practices, social norms, and cultural symbols. The ceremony is held in the presence of all members of both families, as well as respected representatives of the community. Participants are seated in a strictly defined order. Chiefs and elders occupy the most honored places, and young people are placed behind them. Kava is prepared from the root of the Piper methysticum plant in a special wooden bowl called a tanoa. The process of preparing the drink is a ritual in itself. The root is ground, water is added, and it's carefully strained through coconut fibers. The first bowl of kava is always given to the highest-ranking chief or elder. Before drinking, they clap their hands 3 times, symbolizing respect for ancestors and sea spirits. After drinking the beverage, one final clap follows. Next, the kava is served in a strict hierarchical sequence. First to the male elders, then to the groom, after him to the bride, and finally to the other participants in the ceremony. Each participant repeats the clapping ritual, demonstrating their respect for tradition. During the drinking of kava, traditional blessings and wishes are spoken for the young couple. Elders tell stories about ancestors, sharing wisdom and guidance for married life. This process can continue for several hours, strengthening the spiritual bonds between participants. The kava ceremony also serves as a moment of official recognition of the marriage by the entire community. After drinking kava together, the young spouses are considered full members of both families, with the rights and responsibilities that this entails. The role of women in wedding traditions. In Fijian culture, women play an active and influential role in wedding ceremonies, which may seem surprising to an outside observer. Despite the seemingly patriarchal system with the purchase of the bride, real power in family matters often belongs to women. Mothers and aunts on both sides actively participate in marriage negotiations. They assess the family's reputations, discuss the compatibility of the young people, and influence the final decision of the elders. Women's opinions are rarely ignored, even if the decision is formally made by men. The making of traditional wedding gifts falls entirely on the shoulders of women. Weaving ibe mats, creating masi, preparing aromatic oils and decorations, all of this requires special skills passed down from mother to daughter for generations. Women are also responsible for the musical accompaniment of wedding ceremonies. They perform traditional vekurumi songs, which tell stories about love, family values, and wishes for happiness. These songs are passed down orally and represent true works of folk art. It's interesting to note that the bride has a voice in whether or not to accept the proposal. While her parents and elders make the formal decision, the girl's opinion is taken into account. Cases of forced marriage are extremely rare and frowned upon by society. After the wedding, the young wife gains a special status in her husband's family. She becomes the guardian of family traditions and is responsible for passing on cultural knowledge to the next generation. This status brings not only responsibilities, but also significant influence on family decisions. The economic impact of tabua on society. The tabua system has had a profound impact on the economic structure of Fijian society, creating a unique model of wealth distribution and social mobility. Unlike monetary systems based on accumulation, tabua functioned on the principle of constant circulation. Families did not seek to accumulate large numbers of whale teeth. Instead, they actively exchanged them for social connections and political influence. Wealth was measured not by the number of tabua owned, but by the ability to give them at the right moment. This system created a natural mechanism for redistributing resources in society. Families who received tabua became indebted to the giver and had to reciprocate at the first opportunity. In this way, wealth constantly circulated, preventing one group from monopolizing all resources. Tabua also stimulated the development of crafts and trade. Families who did not have access to whale teeth developed other skills: mat making, wood carving, fishing, or agriculture. These goods and services were exchanged for tabua, creating a diverse economy. Wedding ceremonies stimulated economic activity for months in advance. Families planned expenses, saved resources, and enlisted relatives to prepare gifts. This process created jobs and supported traditional crafts. Interestingly, the tabua system prevented social stratification. Because wealth was constantly circulating through giving, accumulating large fortunes was virtually impossible. This created a relatively egalitarian society where status depended on generosity, not greed. The impact of European colonization. The arrival of Europeans in the 18th and 19th centuries radically changed the tabua system in Fiji. Traders quickly realized the value of whale teeth to the local population and began hunting sperm whales specifically for them. In the early decades of the 19th century, thousands of whale teeth flooded Fijian markets. European ships hunted sperm whales specifically not for their blubber or ambergris, but solely for their teeth. This trade became so profitable that it led to the development of the European art of scrimshaw, which is engraving on whalebone. The massive influx of tabua led to inflation in the traditional exchange system. What used to cost one whale tooth now required several. Families who could not adapt to the new conditions lost their social standing. Europeans also began producing fake tabua from walrus tusks, ivory, and even wood. These fakes were difficult to distinguish from real whale teeth, which further destabilized the traditional system. Christian missionaries tried to ban the use of tabua in wedding ceremonies, considering these practices pagan. However, their efforts were in vain. The tradition was too deeply rooted in Fijian culture. The colonial administration tried to regulate the tabua trade, but these attempts also failed. The local population continued to use whale teeth for ceremonial purposes, ignoring European laws. Paradoxically, it was European influence that helped preserve the tabua tradition. Faced with the threat of cultural assimilation, Fijians clung even more tightly to their ancient customs. The current state of the tradition. In the 21st century, the tabua tradition is undergoing a period of adaptation to modern realities. Despite globalization and urbanization, whale teeth continue to play an important role in Fijian society. Modern Fijian families still use tabua in wedding ceremonies. However, the procedures have become more flexible. Ceremonies are shortened, adapted to urban conditions, and take into account the needs of international guests. The government of Fiji strictly controls the circulation of tabua. No more than 225 whale teeth can be exported from the country each year, and only with special permits. These measures are aimed at protecting cultural heritage and preventing illegal trade. The International CITES, Convention on International Trade in Endangered Species of Wild Fauna and Flora, also regulates the movement of tabua. Owners must have official documents proving the legality of the whale teeth's origin. In 2007, New Zealand authorities returned 146 tabua to Fiji that had been confiscated for lack of proper documentation. This case showed how seriously the international community takes the protection of endangered species. Modern Fijian couples often combine traditional and Western elements in their weddings. Tabua is still presented to the bride's family, but the ceremony may be accompanied by modern music and held in hotels. Digital technologies are also influencing the tradition. Families use video conferencing to include relatives living abroad in wedding ceremonies. Online catalogs help to choose traditional gifts. Anthropological research of the phenomenon. Anthropologists have been studying the tabua phenomenon for over 200 years, trying to understand the mechanisms of this unique cultural and economic system. Their research reveals the complexity of social relations in traditional Fijian society. Dr. Stephen Hooper from the University of East Anglia conducted extensive research into the role of tabua in Fiji's political system. His work showed that whale teeth functioned as a tool of diplomacy between different chiefdoms. Researcher Andrew Arno from the University of Hawaii studied tabua as a form of cultural currency. He found that the whale tooth system created a unique economy of feelings where material objects carried a deep emotional weight. Fergus Clooney, former director of the Fiji Museum, proposed a revolutionary theory about the symbolic meaning of tabua. In his opinion, whale tooth evolved as symbolic women, replacing real women in political alliances. This theory explains why tabua plays such an important role in wedding ceremonies. The presentation of a whale tooth symbolically represents the giving of a woman, creating a spiritual connection between families. Modern researchers use methods of economic anthropology to analyze the tabua system. They have found that this system has amazing resilience and adaptability to changing conditions. Research shows that tabua perform many functions simultaneously. They serve as a medium of exchange, a symbol of status, a spiritual object, and a political tool. This multifunctionality explains the longevity of the tradition. Comparison with other cultures. The tabua system in Fiji has parallels in other cultures of the Pacific region, which allows anthropologists to conduct comparative studies. These comparisons help to understand the universal principles of human societies. In neighboring Tonga, whale teeth were also used for ceremonial purposes. Some researchers believe that this tradition came to Fiji from there. Tongan whale teeth had a slightly different shape and were used in other contexts. In Papua New Guinea, there is a kula shell exchange system, which is very similar to the Fijian tabua trade. Both systems are based on creating long-term social connections through the exchange of valuable objects. North American Indians of the Pacific coast used copper plates in potlatch ceremonies, which also created systems of mutual obligations. These copper plates, like tabua, were never sold, but only given as gifts. In some African cultures, livestock performs functions similar to tabua. It serves as a measure of wealth, is used in wedding ceremonies, and creates social connections. However, livestock has practical value, unlike purely symbolic tabua. Interestingly, many traditional societies have independently developed ceremonial exchange systems. This speaks to a fundamental human need to create social connections through material objects. Ecological aspects and nature conservation. The modern tabua tradition faces serious environmental challenges related to the protection of sperm whales and other marine mammals. These magnificent creatures are threatened with extinction due to centuries of intensive hunting. Sperm whales are the largest toothed whales on the planet, reaching up to 59 feet in length. Their population has been seriously affected by commercial hunting in the 19th and 20th centuries. Today, these animals are protected by international conventions. The International Whaling Commission banned commercial sperm whale hunting in 1986. This decision radically changed the availability of new tabua. Modern Fijians are forced to rely on old family heirlooms. The CITES Convention classifies sperm whales as an endangered species. This means that any trade in products from these animals is strictly regulated. Tabua can cross borders only with official permits. Fijian authorities have developed a special tabua monitoring program. Every whale tooth leaving the country must be registered and have documents of origin. This system helps to prevent illegal trade. Some modern Fijians propose using artificial tabua made from environmentally friendly materials. However, traditionalists are strongly against such innovations, considering them sacrilege. Paradoxically, it is the cultural value of tabua that can contribute to the protection of sperm whales. Fijians have a vested interest in preserving these animals, as their disappearance would mean the end of an ancient tradition. Psychological aspects of tradition. The tabua system has a profound psychological impact on participants in wedding ceremonies, creating powerful emotional connections between people. Psychologists are studying these effects, trying to understand the mechanisms of social cohesion. The presentation of tabua creates a moment of high emotional tension. The representative of the groom's family experiences anxiety and responsibility, as the future of the young couple depends on his actions. The bride's family experiences a moment of decision-making that will affect their daughter's fate. This stress serves an important psychological function. It emphasizes the seriousness of what is happening and forces all participants to fully focus on the ceremony. High emotional tension makes the moment unforgettable and enhances its significance. Acceptance of tabua evokes a feeling of deep satisfaction and pride in the bride's family. This is recognition that their daughter is worthy of such a valuable gift. At the same time, a sense of responsibility arises towards the groom's family. Giving tabua also has a psychological impact on the groom's family. This is a demonstration of their generosity and social status, which increases the self-esteem of the participants. However, this also creates expectations of reciprocity in the future. The young spouses witness a powerful ritual that emphasizes the importance of their union for both families. This creates additional motivation to preserve the marriage and fulfill family obligations. Interestingly, the psychological impact of the tabua isn't just limited to the ceremony itself. These objects continue to influence family relationships for years, serving as reminders of the commitments made. The future of the tabua tradition. Modern globalization presents new challenges to preserving the tabua tradition. Young Fijians who are educated abroad and work in international companies may lose touch with their cultural roots. Urbanization also affects the tradition. In urban settings, it's more difficult to organize full ceremonies involving extended families. Many elements of the ritual have to be adapted to modern realities. Economic factors are playing an increasingly important role. The cost of organizing a traditional wedding is rising, making it unaffordable for some families. This can lead to the simplification or disappearance of some elements of the ceremony. Nevertheless, there are positive trends. Many young Fijians are consciously returning to traditions, seeing them as a source of cultural identity. Mixed marriages between Fijians and people from other cultures often include elements of traditional ceremonies. The tourism industry also contributes to the preservation of the tradition. Many hotels offer guests traditional Fijian weddings, which maintains interest in the cultural heritage. Although it's a commercialized version, it helps preserve knowledge of the traditions. Digital technologies are opening up new opportunities for documenting and transmitting traditions. Video recordings of ceremonies, online archives, and educational programs help the younger generation learn about their culture. The Fijian government actively supports the preservation of cultural heritage. Special programs in schools introduce children to the traditions of their ancestors. Museums and cultural centers hold exhibitions and lectures on the significance of the tabua. Perhaps the future of the tabua tradition lies in balancing the preservation of its spiritual essence with adaptation to modern conditions. The main thing is to preserve the core principles of respect, honor, and social responsibility that underlie this ancient practice. Conclusion. The mystery of marriage in Fiji reveals a fascinating world where ancient traditions continue to shape people's destinies in the 21st century. The tabua system is much more than an exotic custom of buying a bride with whale teeth. It's a complex socio-economic structure that has ensured the stability of Fijian society for centuries. Each tabua carries not only material, but also deep spiritual value. These polished whale teeth serve as bridges between families, generations, and even the worlds of the living and the dead. Their presentation creates invisible threads of mutual obligation that bind people for life. Modern research shows that the tabua tradition represents a unique adaptation to island living conditions. In an isolated community where survival depended on social cohesion, the system of ceremonial exchange of whale teeth created strong bonds between different groups. Paradoxically, it's the seeming archaism of this tradition that ensures its viability in the modern world. In an era of globalization and cultural unification, Fijians find in the tabua a source of unique identity that distinguishes them from the rest of the world. The ecological challenges of the 21st century give the tabua tradition a new dimension. The need to protect sperm whales from extinction makes each whale tooth even more valuable, turning Fijians into guardians of not only cultural but also natural heritage of the planet. Perhaps the most important lesson we can learn from studying the tabua tradition is understanding how material objects can serve as carriers of deep human values. In a world where relationships are increasingly superficial and temporary, the Fijian system of creating lifelong bonds through ceremonial exchange offers an alternative model of human interaction. The story of the tabua reminds us that behind every tradition, no matter how strange it may seem from the outside, lie deep human needs for belonging, respect, and social connectedness. And as long as these needs remain unchanged, ancient traditions will find ways to adapt to new conditions, preserving their essence in a changing world.